Penguin Random House Audio presents Food Intelligence, the science of how food both nourishes and harms us. By Julia Belluz and Kevin Hall, Ph.D. Narrated by Barrie Kreinik. For our kids and their kids, may you all eat better than we did. Introduction. Stardust and Sunshine. Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek philosopher Empedocles proposed his theory of roots, that everything is composed of 4 elements: fire, air, water, and earth. He wasn't too far off. Only 4 elements, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen, make up almost all the body's mass and most of what we eat. Imagine a countryside garden filled with a colorful patchwork of edible plants, tomatoes, cucumbers, strawberries, and corn. To one side stands a chicken coop. Inside and out, the birds cluck and jerk, occasionally pecking on grains. In a bright pasture nearby, cows graze on green grass. As daylight breaks, the chickens lay big brown eggs that will help give form to cakes, omelets, and custards. The cows are milked, and their milk will become butter, yogurt, and cheese. All of this, everything contained in the garden and all its bounty, is mostly made from different configurations of those 4 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. Except for the hydrogen, these elements were all created by previously existing stars that exploded as supernovas. The ability of every living thing in and around the garden to harness energy from another star, the sun, is what made their living possible. The strawberries, the corn, the cows. When sunlight hits a plant, it sets off a chain of chemical reactions, helping it convert light energy, along with water, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide, into glucose, protein, and oxygen gas. The plant grows, and what it breathes out, the animals breathe in. When animals eat a plant, or other animals that ate plants, they indirectly tap into the sun's energy too, using the microcombustions of metabolism. These go off in each cell continuously for every millisecond that an animal is alive. We humans, like everything else in the garden, are nothing but stardust powered by sunshine. Long after Empedocles' time, the science of nutrition and metabolism was established, a project dedicated to figuring out how all of this works, what makes our food, and how it, in turn, makes us. Only recently has the project changed and the question transformed. How and why is our food undoing us and devouring the planet? Nutritional wisdom. The animals in the garden know what and how much to eat to meet their needs. They were born with the ability to quickly learn which foods would best serve their bodies, how much grain, carrots, and grass they'd have to consume to live and grow. When they aren't getting enough of a particular nutrient, their preferences shift. They instinctively seek out foods that contain more of whatever is missing. Eating behavior is a biologically controlled phenomenon, much like breathing. At the same time, precisely what each animal eats is ultimately determined by what is around them, their food environment. The same is true for us. We're born with an intelligence that helps us learn what food is and what we need to eat for survival. From the earliest moments of life, eating helps us learn about our environment, and when we eat, our environment becomes us, building every cell and tissue of the body, transforming into blood, guts, eyeballs, hair, and skin, powering our every movement. When one of our kids was a baby, we won't name names, he learned the hard way that rocks aren't food after ending up in the ER with symptoms that passed just as soon as the rock did. For most of human history, when our environments provided us with fresh food, we did a reasonable job of eating just enough, the right blend of nutrients and energy to ensure our survival and the survival of the species. Diet-related diseases, such as type 2 diabetes and obesity, now defined as excess fat that interrupts the function of the body's organs and tissues, were rare. Type 2 diabetes is far more widespread and very different from type 1 diabetes, which is an autoimmune disorder. References to diabetes in this book will mostly be related to type 2. This rapidly changed in the 20th century. Many of us started to eat too much and the wrong things, even when we didn't want to. Obesity rates began rising, first in rich Western industrialized countries such as the United States, then elsewhere. Between 1980 and today, obesity prevalence doubled in more than 70 countries around the world. In the United States, all age groups experienced the surge simultaneously, suggesting a common environmental cause. Some tried to fight the tide with policy, with astoundingly little success so far. Today, 70% of American adults are classified as either being overweight or having obesity. The same is true for a third of U.S. children. With rising obesity came increases in the prevalence of associated ailments, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and fatty liver disease. Each year, these diet-related chronic diseases result in the deaths of more than 500,000 people, going a long way to explaining why life expectancy has recently been decreasing for the first time in decades. They also cost more than $1 trillion. The health declines coincide with the period during which food became more available and increasingly processed. Many of us lost our connection to what we eat, how it's grown and produced, how it's cooked. We moved away from the garden, even out of the kitchen. If what we eat is ultimately determined by our food environment, and our environment becomes us, humans increasingly resemble factory-produced, fat, sugar, and salt-filled organisms. The wellness industry, another invention of the 20th century, rose alongside the growing rates of chronic disease, with annual global markets above $6 trillion as of 2023. Influencers and gurus peddled supplements, diets and diet books, exercise equipment, and cleanses. They stoked the diet wars, fights about which foods or nutrients are most responsible for our health problems. They sold the idea that the problem is us, that we can control what we eat and how healthy we can become, that we must do better. And we believed them. As we were putting the finishing touches on this book, we commissioned the polling company Morning Consult to survey a representative sample of Americans. We asked people who should be held most accountable for the quality and healthfulness of the food on your dinner plate. By far, the most popular response was, myself. Instead of helping, the diet industries and their debates distracted us and obscured important truths about food. They put the focus on questions like, what's the best diet? Or how can I lose weight? Those questions miss the point. Instead, we should ask, why do we eat what we eat? A shared obsession with that question prompted us, a scientist and a journalist, to write this book. The Scientist. The scientist, Kevin, and the journalist, Julia, met one summer day in 2015. Researching a story about the effects of exercise on body weight for the American news outlet Vox, Julia went to interview Kevin in his book-lined fourth-floor office at a sprawling U.S. federal research hub on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. Kevin wasn't wearing a white lab coat, but jeans and sneakers. The lone physicist conducting human research on obesity at his agency, Kevin brought an unusual toolkit to his lab, a place where mathematicians and physicists use their quantitative skills to study biology. He explained to Julia that he'd stumbled into a focus on nutrition and metabolism by accident. As a kid growing up in Canada, Kevin liked to help his dad in his workshop, where he seemed to constantly be repairing household appliances and machines by taking them apart, fixing what was broken, and putting them back together. He especially liked repairing engines and thought he wanted to become a mechanic. By the time he finished high school, questions about the fundamental nature of the universe took hold of his attention.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?